Hey, Motorman here. All right, I got the bike home, spent a couple hours doing some of the things I normally do when I get a police bike. For instance, the first thing is changing the seat. This is from CC Rider. I know people are going to ask me about that, but I don't like the police seat. It's a pain in the neck. It's too high, so I take that off, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how that comes off because some people are confused about that. Change the mirrors, just a few things. And I'll show you exactly what I put on and took off. And a lot of people are asking me about the red and blue lights on the police bikes. Am I going to take those off? Well, no, of course not. In fact, you probably don't know this. I might have mentioned it before, but the reason I like to buy police bikes is because even though I'm retired, if you buy your own police bike, the sheriff here lets us go out and do traffic. And the best part of it is I get to keep half the money from the tickets. I'm going to have this bike paid for in like 2 months, and I know I didn't want to go out and buy a radar gun. Let me show you what I do. So I got this blow dryer, and I point it at the cars, and then I wave them over. They don't know it's a blow dryer, and right now the cheapest tickets in Florida are $200. I get half of that once a month. I get a nice check from the government. So yeah, that's why I buy the police bikes. Okay, I'm kidding. I just made that up. I know it pisses people off when I say that. I don't do any of that. I'm going to take the lights off at some point. Right now, I just keep them covered when I'm riding. But I'll tell you all about the bike, take it for a ride, and tell you what, exactly what I think of the bike, and again, why I actually buy the police bikes. Before we go for a ride, I'll do a little walk around of the bike and to let people know that they canceled the standard Road King in 2022. And the only one you could get after that is the Road King Special or the Police Road King. Now, the difference between this bike and the Road King Special, of course, the Road King Special has the blacked out motor, and this has got all the chrome. The seat, this is from CC Rider Seats, and it came with two pieces, by the way. It was on sale for $110. 114 motor. It's got the 13-inch shocks versus the 12-inch shocks that come on the Road King Special, and it's about $7,000 cheaper. It comes with the cornering ABS and all the things that you pay an extra for on the Road King Special. All right, let's go for a ride. Well, okay, so this is actually my first ride on the bike. I mean, when I got home, I did take it around the block before I started taking stuff off the bike and putting stuff on. But yeah, that's the first actual ride on the bike, and I'm very familiar with the Road King models. In fact, I think I road tested a 2025 Road King Special a couple of weeks ago. Basically the same motorcycle, but without the blacked out motor, and it doesn't come standard with the cornering ABS and a few other things, whereas this does. So the main reason why I like to buy the police bikes is that it has a hookup for the siren and the amplifier, and of course it has the flashing police lights, and we use that when we do our Ride Like a Pro shows. So that for the average person, of course, you don't want that stuff, but that's what I do with it. I actually don't pull people over and get half the money for the tickets. Yeah, that's never going to happen. But the main difference between the Road King Police and the Road King Electric Glide Police is the fairing. Neither one comes with a radio, so it's just the fairing. And because you don't have all that weight over the handlebars, I believe somewhere around 40 pounds for the fairing and all the wiring and stuff that comes with it. So this steers easier and lighter. That makes it more maneuverable. You don't notice that when you're cruising along at 20, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour, whatever. But at low speeds, when I'm running through the cones or doing the course, you could definitely feel that this bike has an advantage over the Electric Glide, and I'm sure over the new Road Glide, because that's got a bigger, even heavier fairing. In years past, the police models always came with the larger motor, or they would introduce the larger motor on the police bikes, and then a couple of years later you'd get it on the civilian models. But I guess because they knew they wouldn't be making any police Road Kings or Electric Glides after 2025, they didn't add the 117 motor. Now I've got a Street Glide ST with the 117, and I can tell you, I think it's a difference of about 5 or 8 horsepower and a tiny bit more torque, but it's not enough to feel, through the seat of the pants. Maybe on a dyno, you'd probably see that difference, but just riding the bike, normal riding conditions, even accelerating hard or passing, there's not a heck of a lot of difference. Of course, with this bike, you got, as in with all Harley Davidsons, it's all about the torque. You got torque, lots of torque right off of idle. If you're looking to pass somebody, at 60 or 70, even in 6th gear, you don't have to downshift. If you do downshift, yeah, you're going to pick up speed that much sooner, but it's really not necessary, and that's what torque gives you. A lot of power on this bike, more than you'll ever need, and I know people love to throw money at performance parts, but you had to keep in mind, whenever you develop more power in a motor, you're going to develop more heat. Here in Florida, we got enough heat. So probably the only thing that I'm going to add to this bike is some tab performance mufflers, because they do sound really good, and I like the medium baffles. The zombie baffles are a little loud for my taste, but the medium baffles are just a bit louder than the stock pipes, and they do give you more performance. I think I'll leave the air filter alone, because if you just put tab mufflers on it, don't do anything else to the bike, you don't have to get it tuned or spend that extra, I don't know, whatever it is, $500 or $600 for the Harley-Davidson tuner or one of the aftermarket ones. But since it's got, like I said, all the power I'll ever need, this bike turns in great. People who've never ridden a heavyweight motorcycle like this, Harley-Davidsons, they have no idea how well these bikes handle. You got a 32-degree lean angle. That's more than most heavyweight touring motorcycles, and it's once it gets down to that 32 degrees, what you're hitting first on the left side is the tip of the kickstand, and on the right side it's the floorboard. Go a little bit further, yeah, you probably might hit the bracket that holds the floorboard, and that's a hard part. It's not going to fold up, whereas the floorboards do fold up. So if you consider that you hit those floorboards and you go a little deep, you probably get 34-degree lean angle. That's more than enough for the vast majority of riders. In fact, most people will never hit those floorboards, even on a winding mountain road. And really, that's a good thing, because if you're on a winding road and your floorboards are scraping, you're coming around a curve, and there's a little bit of dip in that curve, well, you could then hit the hard part of the bracket and lever a tire off the ground. So if you want to practice leaning your bike as far as possible, do it in an empty flat parking lot, and you'll figure out pretty soon how much you could lean the motorcycle. But as I said before, the biggest difference between this and the Road King Special is the fact that it's about $6,000–7,000 less money. That's a big chunk of change. As far as maneuverability, of all the heavyweight motorcycles out there, this is the best. Shorter wheelbase than most, shorter rake, and that means maneuverability. For instance, this street, I've measured this before, it's 18 feet wide. And this bike easily turns in well under 18 feet. That was the tip of the kickstand you heard scraping. Just a warning, says don't go much further. Because this bike has the 13-inch shocks versus the 12s that come on, well, older street glides and also on the Road King Special, it's got a little bit better ride, especially if you're adding luggage and a passenger. It's not going to bottom out near as easily. I also like on the police bikes that you have the speedometer mounted up here. Tack is mounted over here. On the tank, on the Road King Special, everything's mounted right here, and you got to tilt your head down to see it. Do I think that because this is the last of the 2025 police Road Kings that, according to Harley, they'll ever make, will it be a collector's item? Nah, probably not. There's plenty of Road Kings out there, so I don't see it being a collector's item, but I do see it being a very good buy for a really terrific riding, handling motorcycle. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something. And please subscribe. Click that notification bell. That way, every time I come out with a video, you'll be notified. And once again, thanks for watching. Alright, here's how to get the seat off. There's a long bolt up front. And then these two bolts in the back here, you want to take those off. They sit on top of the spring, then you can lift the seat off. These two bolts that hold the plastic piece down, save those because you're going to need them to install your new seat. And you want to take this bracket off that's up front that held the police seat down. Cover the tank so there's nothing in your way. And next you've got to get to that spring. There's two bolts, 7/16 of an inch bolts underneath there. So you've got to take that battery out in order to get to it. I just snapped everything out, taped it to the side of the bike so I'd have enough room to pull out that battery. It's kind of heavy. You should have it's like a cloth plastic piece where you can lift up the battery. That's the piece that's really hard to get to, those two bolts, just a pain in the neck. If you're interested in a police seat and the whole setup, including the rack, I've got 2 or 3 of these in my garage. They're in my way, $350. I'll include the rack, everything that you need to install one of them.